Hello, this is Aaron Dominion, the Creation Kit scripting series Papyrus tutorials. I'm going to do this a little bit differently than I've been doing because of some feedback I've been getting on the Nexus forums. Basically, I've been boring apparently with my presentation. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be boring. Uh, so, there's going to be less presentation side, and there's going to be more coding slash testing side. And hopefully that will be more fun for everybody. So, let's get started. Events, functions, first part, basics of events. So, I was debating for a while what to do here, because both events and functions are important. Functions is where you're going to just tie in all of the framework logic, and events is what the game calls for whatever action's going on that you can act upon in a script. And I decided on events because you're going to be using events anyway. We've already used events to help with the variables section, so let's get started with events. What is an event? It's an action in the game, so somebody's typing on the keyboard, you're using the mouse, moving around in the world, enter combat with somebody. Just anything you can imagine, it's an event, because that's how Bethesda decided, oh hey, how are we going to represent actions that are acted upon in the game? And this events is what they decided to represent their world with. So, the examples I list here, we already said player pressing a key, being a key press event. When a script starts, it's an init event. And then when you swing your weapon, you have an animation event, and then whenever you have a on hit, if your weapon hits, or if it doesn't hit, it won't send an event in that case. So, when are events called? Whenever the action occurs in the game, it sends the information to the event. So, some events, however, require you to listen for the specific event before the information is sent. Game updates, animation events, things like that are generally under that category. So the limits on events. So there's only so much that they've given us, the modder, in terms of events that we can play around with. Like the key press event, that's not in the vanilla game. Menus opening and closing, that's not in the game. Any actions that actors are performing at the time, you can't really listen for that too well. So that's the limitations on the vanilla side of things. Some of those events that I just mentioned, however, are in the Skyrim script extender. I haven't really played around with the script extender. At some point in this series I will do that, but not now. We'll cover that at a later time. So, here's just everything fit on this page. This is the universe of the events. As you notice, like on activate, let's look at the top. It's an under object reference. This will go into more detail later on what all that means. But there's just as there's variable scope, there's event scope. We'll go into detail later on that for event and function scope. Alright, so that's the end of the presentation section. Let's go into the actual coding section. Okay. So, here we have our script basic, and here's our room that we have. Notice there is a giant skeever in the room. We are going to use a giant skeever in this test. So, let's go with our trusty onInit event, and we're going to have the player and assign it game.getPlayer, and this is going to be assigning the player. And now we're going to use one of the events that you have to register for. Register for update, and let's do game time. Let's look at the documentation real quick. So, how does it do this again? Let's look at the actual register for update game time. It'll give us more information. Okay, the interval game hours is what we're looking for. So let's do 0.3. I believe that's a valid value. Let's look again to make sure. Yep. Okay. So we have that. So let's get our update game time. It doesn't have any arguments or parameters, which we'll cover that in a later episode. And we want to move the skeever to the player. So let's go to our let's go and look up object reference real quick. Okay, and let's find the move to. There we go. Alright, move to, you have it move to the target, so let's have and then move to, and then player. Oh, something to note. You never want to do what I just did for register for update game time. You always want to do register for single updates, so it's because it's a compatibility thing. We'll go into more detail later on when we go more into the intricacies of events after we go into functions in the next few episodes. Alright, so we have our basic event. I mean, this is all that we're going to really do in this episode, so let's go to our logic barrel, as I'm calling it. Here's our script here. We save it. Alright, it compiled successfully. There we go. Save this. Close out of the creation kit. Yes. Alright. And now I will see you in a moment. Alright, so we have the game loading here. Oh, I should say I'm back, I guess, for the video's sake. So what should happen is... Oh. Alright, that wasn't supposed to show up, but... Eventually... the skeever is going to move to us, because of the script we just did. Any moment now, skeever. Any moment. I think I was a little off with the time interval. Alright. You get me, see me swing a sword, that's not really conducive to this. And there we go. We got a health fever. And the skeever is dead. Alright, I will see you in a moment for the conclusion of the video. We're back. So that's the conclusion of this video. Hopefully this is better than the past videos that on the boringness levels. Anyway, my contact information, here it is. I'll also put it in the YouTube video description. If you have any questions, feel free to message me through the contact information that I'll provide. Also YouTube, I can respond to you there if you have questions. Hope to see you the next episode.